Up to 8 hours? 8 hours.
I'm gonna broadcast for 8 hours, guys.
Solid. Uh, wait, what just happened? No, what? What? There we go.
There we go.
What's up, man?
Looks like it's all good to go.
Well, it's 8:32 in a couple extra seconds, and I'm sure there are people who are buried under 12 feet of snow,
Yes.
unlike me, where I was buried under no feet of snow, which is nice. Literally nothing. Nothing whatsoever. Could have went outside, put some sunglasses on. It was beautiful. I had nothing.
Disappointed in that. I'm disappointed in all the weather forecasters we have that can't get their predictions right on what the weather's going to do. I'd much rather than tell me I don't know what's going to happen, and we'll wing it. So just get your shovels just in case.
We'll see. Anyway, welcome one and all to the first ever GSM podcast Game Set Match.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited.
I'm super excited.
This has been a whole 48 hours of work and planning that we finally put together. I'm sure people put more planning into what they do. 48 hours was good enough.
Yeah. We're just two ordinary guys.
Yeah. So I'll start off with introductions for all those wondering. My name is Joe Machado. You can catch me on Twitter. You can catch me on PlayStation as a massive gamer under the tag title Diamond Jab, and avid Colts fan who's just crying on the inside, which we will get into why I'm crying on the inside. But yeah, you can catch me on Twitter. You can catch me on Facebook, YouTube, Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, you name it. Massive gamer, sports man extraordinaire. So you can catch me on that. And I'm pretty excited. It's the first podcast that I have ever done. So this is new water, untreaded water for me. So I'm pretty excited. What about you, Keenan?
My name's Keenan. Not real active on the Twitter. I'll try to hop it up now that we've got this podcast off and running. You can find me at Keeny Bikini 25. The E's being threes in there. Same Xbox Live tag name. Very avid gamer. You more likely see me playing FIFA. I will challenge anybody to play me in FIFA. I'll play. Win, lose, or draw. I will probably rage at most of the time, but I will also talk a lot of trash if I beat you. So
yeah,
both ends of the spectrum. But also a big sports fan. That's probably the premise of this podcast.
Yeah.
Talking sports, talking video games, talking entertainment. You can catch me on Facebook, YouTube. I'll try to change the layout there for you guys. So we're trying to do this, I guess, weekly, once a week. We'll see how it goes. Right now, I have it set for an hour. It depends on if people like it. We'll see where it goes from here.
Sure. So, so much to talk about. I figured let's start with a top three, just because there's so much to talk about. And I would love to talk about the Super Bowl, because I would like to not talk about the AFC Championship game. I would like to go as long as humanly possible to not talk about Deflategate. So we'll see how long we can go. But the Super Bowl is I believe 5 days away, about to be 4 days away. So it's right around the corner. Today was media day, and we had the wonderful beast mode, Marshawn Lynch, up at the podium.
I'm just here. Hold on. I'm just here so I don't get fined. That's
just so much information was just pouring out of Marshawn Lynch. Just doesn't want to get fined. Was warned for the crotch grab that was in the Green Bay game. There's an interesting battle at running backs, because you got Marshawn Lynch and you have LeGarrette Blount over in New England. I want to get your take on how pivotal this is going to be, the running game wise, because obviously the running game is a huge part of what happens in Seattle. But given the talent of the secondary, do you think the running game is going to have a huge part for New England?
Well, when I don't know. See, that's the thing. It's depending on who their running game is. That's the real issue. You have 3 running backs. Well, sometimes 2. If he decides Jonas Gray is going to play or not. Just small fact: Jonas Gray was their leading rusher this year, which means their running game was abysmal. So that is what that says. LeGarrette Blount, I mean, for what it is, I don't know how they don't use him more. He just is a hard guy to tackle. Shane Green, also a very good running back, I think underutilized on that team. They go anywhere else, put them on, teams struggling for a running back, the Vikings, somebody like that. Your very own Colts, put either of those running backs on that team, and you have I would say top 10 running back in the league, easy.
Yeah.
But I just don't. It's all about. It's got to be Tom Brady. They gotta. I don't think. Seattle's defense is just. I remember watching them week 1, and I was like, they're gonna win the Super Bowl again. They are furious. They can stack 8 in the box and still stop the pass. That's how good they are. And I just don't see it. You have to figure if you can run on them more. If they establish a running game on them, then the Patriots deserve to win the Super Bowl. Yeah. But I don't see that happening very easily, at least.
And that's the thing. When you break down what New England brings to the table offensively, and you and I were talking about this yesterday, the idea that if you compare receiving cores offensively, Russell Wilson probably has one of the worst receiving cores, probably worse than any that Tom Brady brought to the Super Bowl. And Tom Brady had some pretty average receiving core. I mean, I don't have to bring up, guys like Andre Caldwell, those kind of receivers that it's not a great talent group. So I think offensively, obviously the 2 tight end set in New England is going to be important to be able to run that to be able to take Gronk and run him up the seam the way that they do so well. It's going to be interesting to see where they go because talent-wise, it's really in the middle of the field where a lot of that New England offensive talent is. So I'm wondering exactly what direction they're going to go in.
And that if they attack the middle of the field, that's a distinct advantage for them. That's because Seattle's defense is strong on the outside. You have Richard Sherman. You have blanking on his name, Cam Chancellor, who's just a beast. Gronk is going to be their main focus. I'm almost as a Seattle defense, I almost say, all right, well, maybe we let LeGarrette Blount run the ball 20 times and, let him average 2 point whatever yards a carry, and to let Gronk catch, 7 balls for, 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think, you'd rather LeGarrette Blount, have 80 rushing yards and contain Rob Gronkowski. But it's definitely going to be a interesting matchup. I think literally this is the way it's shaping up to be, and I hope it ends up, is a very close game. Because I think both teams do things extremely well that counteract the other team. I think Seattle has a great defense that's going to be able to neutralize that New England offense. But I also feel like Seattle's offense is pretty suspect, and that their mediocre wide receivers aren't going to be able to contend with Darrelle Revis and Brandon Browner out there as cornerbacks. And it's they may not have the front 8 to stack up against Seattle's offense, but they can shut down those receivers. And then they have to figure out, okay, how are we going to stop Marshawn Lynch?
And even if you look at Denver's secondary is somewhat improved. Or not Denver. What am I talking about? New England. I'm thinking about last year's Super Bowl, which was abysmally bad. So I'm hoping it's bad. But if you look at if you compare those two, so we talked about this, the idea that Russell Wilson has the potential of beating 2 of probably the greatest quarterbacks of all time in back-to-back Super Bowl appearances. You look at this New England team, and I would say defensively, New England. Would you say New England's defense is either on par, or maybe a little better than Denver's was last year?
I would take Denver's on paper. I would take Denver's defense from last year over New England. I don't think it's secondary wise, yes, but I don't think, like I said, I don't think Vince Wilfork is a big dude, but he's not 8 people altogether. He might look like he's 8 people altogether, but I just don't think it stacks up on paper. Now, as a unit, the way Denver played last year, then yeah, anybody was better than that defense because I don't know what they were doing last year in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
but I think on paper, you're looking at like I said, a little bit above average defense in the Patriots. Let me see.
Yeah. Let's bring that up, just because, especially when you break that down, the Super Bowl is definitely going to be interesting, and we're going to have this. Our idea. We're going to have to make predictions tonight since we're weekly. But I don't know. I think this Super Bowl is going to be a little more interesting than it's been in the past. I mean, we one of the topics we're going to cover in a little bit is going to be legacy. Because we have Tom Brady's legacy and we have Russell Wilson's legacy, who, even though it's his 3rd year in the NFL, there's something there. There's something there. I mean, Spanx absolutely demolishes Peyton Manning, and now has the potential of facing Tom Brady. And we did some analysis leading up to the show on Tom Brady's Super Bowls. This is his 6th appearance, and if you really look at it, there's probably one team that he's played that was legitimate as far as talent-wise, and that was the first Super Bowl that was the greatest show on turf in St. Louis.
Yep.
I mean, even if you break down, I mean, the second closest would probably be the Eagles. I mean, they had T.O., they had a pretty solid team, but I still wouldn't have picked Philadelphia over New England in any set of circumstances, even knowing what I know now. I don't think I would have picked Philly at all. St. Louis I would have picked just because offensively they were just a powerhouse team. And then Carolina being the team in between who just didn't belong. Just did not belong in that Super Bowl at all. So I think it's interesting when you break down those legacies, because Tom Brady, the talent he's played within those Super Bowls, I mean, obviously you play the team that you play. We can't deny that. Yeah. But I think there's something to be said about the idea of the team on the other side of the field and who you play in that situation. I think there's something to be said about that. We can't deny Russell Wilson didn't put a beat down on one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time last year, and has the potential to beat a second one this year. Right. That's not gonna skew the idea of the legacy at all, because it is. And you look at what Tom Brady's done. I mean, he lost to Eli Manning, and I'll make this joke once and I'll say it again. Eli Manning is the only double Super Bowl winning quarterback that if I looked at his stats, I would go, I might not put him in the Hall of Fame. I mean, I got 2 Super Bowl wins, and I got a lot of interceptions. A lot of them. So he's the only quarterback I feel that way who's in the league right now for.
Just to go back to that defensive ranking, New England was ranked 15th in defense this year.
It's pretty average.
Like I said, they're above average defense. Teams that were closely ranked are actually, am I counting that? This can't be right. Hold on. How do they rank this?
We're still asking that question.
Because according to this, Arizona's defense is ranked worse than them, which is not true. Arizona's like one of the top-ranked defenses this year. So, is it by points, maybe?
Let's take a look-see.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how they rank it. But like I said, I think an average defense at best. Above average, they're better than they're no Seattle, they're no Arizona this year, they're no even St. Louis. St. Louis is a very young team, but very good defense. But they are better than the Redskins. They're better than the Buccaneers, who I support. And like times, I think they put their special teams out there to play defense.
Yeah.
And that's it was abysmal this year. So, but it above average defense. But again, that's going against offense. So I think again is just above average. You have Marshawn Lynch, you have Russell Wilson, both great players in my opinion. But then you have people like Doug Baldwin and Javon Curse and Luke Wilson, who, if you put them on any other team, third string wide receivers at best, slot receivers, you're not getting a whole lot of looks. And I guess they're making it work for them, but I just don't see. I don't see Doug Baldwin beating Darrelle Revis on any go route or any slant route. Darrelle Revis is going to eat him alive and have him for breakfast, and then go sit on the sideline and just snack on some Marshawn Skittles over there.
So it looks like this is NFL.com's ranking defensively, and Seattle. This is points per game.
Okay.
Given up. This is all of this season, and Seattle is number one. So they're coming in with the number one ranked defense in here. If you break it down and you look at the New England Patriots, you're looking at New England as the number 8 ranked defense, giving up 19.6 points per game.
This is regular season, right?
This is regular season. NFL.com
Okay.
is the source. That's breaking down points per game. However, it's a different story when you take a look at the yardage. So when you look at yards per game, Seattle number 1, 267. However, New England is then ranked 13th. They're giving up just under 350 yards a game.
Yeah. And I think it's more impressive for the Seattle side of things when you're playing, maybe not so much this year, but you're playing, teams like they played the 49ers once. I'm sure they played the Lions, I think, once. Let me see if I can pull up their schedule. But, when you're the New England Patriots and you play the Jets twice a year, okay, come on, that's a give me. You played Buffalo, who's didn't even know who their quarterback was halfway throughout the year. They Kyle Orton. Come on, you play them twice a year. The Dolphins, who actually gave them a run for their money, and Ryan Tannehill, balled out this year.
Yeah.
But when you play, the Jets and the Buffalo Bills twice a year, that's 4 games where you can put in your backups and be all right with it.
I mean, strength of schedule wise was pretty good. The back half of the season was pretty much a cakewalk. The first half of it, they played all their tough teams. So Green Bay, San Diego, Denver, Dallas, Carolina were all within the first half of the season. The back Arizona was week 12 though, but if you look at the rest of the season, now knowing where the teams were, you're looking at Kansas City, San Francisco twice within 3 weeks, Philadelphia where they ended up, St. Louis twice. So the back half of their schedule was relatively easy. It was not that tough of a game. I mean, they let up no passer that they played in the regular season passed for more than 350 yards. The closest, if you look at combined quarterback, no quarterback passed over 350 yards. The closest was Russell Wilson in the game against Arizona. He passed for 339. The only quarterbacks to go over 300 were Peyton Manning. And it looks like that's it. Peyton Manning was the only quarterback to go over 300 yards. So schedule-wise, I mean, Seattle didn't play the toughest schedule in the universe.
Yeah.
But I mean, you break that down and what that means. You look defensively, and you look defensively for New England. This is going to. I can't help but feel that it's not going to be a repeat of last year, but I can't help but feel that it's going to be just as ugly as it was last year. I want it to be close, but I don't think it will be, because I mean, now mind you, I remember sitting and watching the same game that you and I watched last year and just going strategy-wise, we have no idea what Denver is doing. They probably had, one pass that was over 15 yards?
Yep.
Everything else was dink and dunk passes and things like that. So I'm assuming New England's going to come in with a different mindset, but I can't help but feel the gut feeling is that it's going to be just as ugly as it was last year.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, it has that potential, and I hope for the kind of NFL sake that it is a close game.
Oh, God.
After the year they've had, people beating their wife in the face, beating their children, I don't know, maybe in the face, people doing drugs, people having parties in the regular season as backup quarterbacks, and then the unmentionable football situation and all that. Like you need it. You can't have a Super Bowl like you had last year. Because as big of a sports fan as I am, I wanted to turn it off last year. I was like, what is this? This game is over.
So this poses an interesting question. Because we're talking about legacy, we're talking about how we remember. I'm trying to think back to those dynasty type of teams, and there was something that I liked about them. I'm thinking back to the San Franciscos, even the Dallases beforehand. I liked something about that team. I might not have been a fan of the team, but I liked something. I liked something about Seattle, but if Seattle blows out New England, they will have won 2 championships in 2 years. Do you like them? If I assume they're going to be good next year, do you go, if they go to the Super Bowl, there's a chance I'm not even going to watch it because of what I've seen in the last 2 years. I'm not even going to bother watching this thing.
I've seen this show before. I feel like I've seen this show before. I know what's going to happen.
Does that fall as a different type of dynasty? A dynasty that is good, it could be called a dynasty, but you kind of go, it's the New York Giants effect. So the New York Giants won 2 Super Bowl championships, and I'm from New York. My parents are from New York. My parents love the Giants, but I look at their 2 Super Bowl championships and I go, really? There's nobody who could have beaten them. I mean, they were wild card teams. They had to play all 4 games on the road. Nobody could have beaten this team. It just doesn't come off as a dominating Super Bowl champion.
Yeah.
So you kind of go, now Seattle is going to be that, but it's kind of the extreme opposite of that. It's the competition they're playing is pretty much nothing. Now again, this is assuming that Seattle even wins.
Yeah. If they win, they then become a team everybody loves to hate.
Exactly.
Because they already have this moniker that I personally, as a sports fan, I don't support Seattle, but as a sports fan, I love the demeanor they have. They'll go out, they'll tell you what they're going to do, and they're going to do it. Hey, we're going to hit you in the mouth. And then they come out and they hit you in the mouth. And then you're like, well, I guess they told me they were going to do that. Yeah, they did.
So Marshawn didn't tell you. Marshawn didn't tell you anything.
Well, he's just there so he doesn't get fined.
He's just there so he doesn't get fined. So Marshawn didn't tell us anything of what he's going to do in the Super Bowl.
I think I got at least that much from him this season. That he's there so he doesn't get fined. And for the skills. And the occasional crotch grab.
There has to be a news outlet somewhere that put that at the top of their board as breaking news.
Breaking news, Marshawn Lynch is here, so he does not get fined.
Yeah, exactly. It's the number one thing we're talking about. Oh, wow, what are the odds? I have ESPN in front of me, and guess what their top topic is? Lynch's fine performance. The fact that he said 30 times that he doesn't want to speak because he doesn't want to get fined is the top story of the day.
At what point, as a reporter, do you go, you know what? I get paid too much money for this shit. For someone not to answer a simple question. Or you're at the Super Bowl, and out of all the people, that's who you want to interview. There's Tom Brady over there. There's Cam Chancellor, Richard Sherman, who always gives you great sound bites. He has possibly the greatest sound bite from last year.
Of course.
I remember the quarterback's name now. Crabtree, Michael Crabtree. He basically yelled in what's her face in the reporter's face.
Oh my god!
And it was great TV. Why not interview him? That's guaranteed soundbite.
Exactly.
Why are we interviewing? And I don't hate Marshawn Lynch for it. I don't think he should be forced to talk to the media. Don't let him talk to the media. He wants to show up and play football. Don't let him show up and play football. Don't let him
And that's
force him. Yeah, if he wants to talk to the media, let him talk to the media. But you force him, and then you fine him for it. Like, you're not really teaching him anything because that's pocket change. Or we're going to fine you $25,000. Oh, let me get my checkbook out. I made it to the end. We were in the Super Bowl. They paid me that for winning the NFC Championship.
Yeah. Let me let me just give you that ahead of time before we're done.
Yeah. Like, yeah. I get the crotch grabbing. Okay, yeah, you don't want him crotch grabbing in the Super Bowl. You're going to have, probably a heightened audience watching it that doesn't watch football or watch Seattle football on occasion. I get that. You don't want him grabbing his crotch on national TV. But, like, let him play football. Let him do him. He's not hurting anybody. He's not doing anything illegal. Let him just play football. He doesn't have to talk to the media, but you force him to. And then that's, this is what we get. We get piss poor news. There's tons of things that can be talked about, and you're talking about a guy who's just saying things because he doesn't want to be there. And that's sports news.
Apparently. Somehow that's like breaking news of everything, and we'll take it from there. So now is the time. At least I feel now is the time. I don't know about you. I feel confident enough I can make a prediction. I don't know where you stand. Do you want to go first with your prediction?
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead, run with it. I want to hear what you got.
So I said it earlier. I'll say it again. I feel like, just gut feeling, it's not going to be as ugly because I feel like Belichick is not going to allow his team to come in with a game plan that is not going to be effective, like we saw last year. Just a game plan that was just absolutely ineffective. But I don't think that it equals out the way people would like it to equal out. Now, I've seen a ton of New England Patriots games that is a byproduct of liking a team in the AFC. The Colts went into New England, and I said it from the onset of the week when people were asking me about that game. I said the first drive is going to show you everything because that's the way the Colts play in New England. And Josh Cribbs fumbled that punt, and that was the end of it. Done. I didn't even have to watch the rest of it because I knew what was going to happen. I don't feel the Seahawks are a much tougher team than Indianapolis is. And to be able to drop 45 on that team, the Colts secondary, in my opinion, is one of the better secondaries in the league. But linebacking core-wise, they're abysmal. They're not great. Defensively, they don't do very well. And, of course, LeGarrette Blount ran all over them like he did last year. Pretty much did it again this year.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case. I think defensively, Seattle is, as they are, they're the best team in the NFL. I don't believe, even though offensively Seattle is questionable, I believe New England's defense is just as questionable. And so last year we broke down the numbers, and I believe it was 28 points that was scored by the offense. There was one kick return, and then there were 14 points that were scored by defense, I think was the breakdown.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a flip of that. I think it's going to be a 31-17 win, but I don't think it's going to be scoring 17 points is going to be good, but I don't think it's going to be anywhere close to what people think it is. This idea that it's a good matchup because it's Tom Brady, we said the same thing. It's going to be a good matchup because it's Peyton Manning last year, and that was pretty much irrelevant. So I think it's going to be like a 31-17 or somewhere along the lines of a 13-point win for Seattle.
Okay. Now, I'm looking at right now at history. I pulled up the history of their recent plays. The last time they played each other was 2012, before Seattle was even relevant. Really.
Sure.
Lost Seattle. Actually, it doesn't even say who. That's stupid. It just says L 24-23, and I don't know who that L is representative of. Come on, guys. All right, Seattle beat them by 1. Granted, it was in week 6, looks like. New England still had Wes Welker. But, okay, this was still Russell Wilson time. And, here we go. Braylon Edwards had a 10-yard touchdown catch. in that game.
Really?
Braylon Edwards and Sidney Rice. Sidney Rice is
So that was Sidney Rice in Seattle.
Quick side note about Sidney Rice. He is the most frustrating receiver I've ever seen in my life. I'm an avid fantasy football player, and I've never seen somebody miss a game because of a headache. Like, pop 2 Tylenol and get the fuck out there. What are you doing? I've seen people do more with headaches, and you're sitting up. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
I think both teams, as much as it pains me to say this, and I know our friend SportsCenter is going to love that I say this, the Patriots are a very good team, and they've been good. So you can't count them out. They've been there before. Tom Brady has been to 6 Super Bowls. Granted, he's lost 3 of them. Or he's lost 2 of them, excuse me.
Lost 2 of them, yeah.
He's lost 2 of them. He's 3-2 right now. Loses, he'll be 3-3, but he's been to 6 Super Bowls. Not many people could say they've been to 6 Super Bowls. Same with Bill Belichick. They've been there before, so there isn't that extra pressure of, oh, we haven't been here, they haven't been in the moment. They've been in the moment. They are a championship pedigree team. But on the other side, you have a team who just did it last year. Same kind of thing. It's not going to break them. They just did this last year. So it's not like they're overloaded with a whole bunch of rookies. It's pretty much the same core people. They know what they're getting themselves into. They know what to expect. So I really see it being a really good game. I see it going down 28-24 in good old to Seattle, but they're going to pull a good old New England fashion thing and win on that final drive. Because I think New England tends to, when they get on these big stages, they perform well, and then they can't seem to just seal the deal. That's how they lost those 2 Super Bowls against the Giants. It was last, and even the ones they won. I think we looked at it last night. None of them were by more than 4 points. All of them were game-winning field goals. And I don't think, as good as Stephen Gutowski is, he's no Adam Vinatieri. He's not, going to bail them out in the last-second, field goal. I think Seattle takes it 28-24. Very good game, very close, back and forth. Seattle takes it on the last drive. So I'm going to call my shot. I'm going to say it's a Marshawn Lynch running touchdown, and he will grab his crotch, and they'll take the 15 yards. And
and that'll be it. He'll go, hey, look, I'm going to retire from the sport, so you don't even have to find me. I'm done.
Yeah.
I don't want. I won 2 Super Bowls. Let's be real. I mean,
right.
Where
are my Skittles? That's the question he's going to be asking.
Some really average teams. I think I'll be okay. I think I'll be all right with what I got. So let's shift gears because neither of our teams are playing in the Super Bowl.
Oh man, far from it.
Far
from it.
I wasn't as far, but I was 35 points away. So you could say I was pretty far. So let's just call it like we see it. So I want to talk about the draft because it's never too early to start projecting players and where they could go based on minimal evidence. It's never too early for that.
Yep.
So I want to talk about the draft. I have the draft order here in front of me, and I want to talk about your team for a little bit. Because they have the number 1 pick. They had a relatively decent strength of schedule. Not too hard, but it wasn't bad.
Yep.
And of course, if you haven't figured out, everybody, we're talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Right. Fire the cannons. Fire the cannons. We didn't do that much this season.
you did
got
it
so bad
twice.
for fire cannons on field goal. That's what we had to fire cannons on field goals.
It got so bad that Bud Light wanted to do the commercial of whatever happens as the Buccaneers, and this guy comes home and like Warren Sapp's in his house, and they built this ship in the backyard, and they're firing cannons, and it's like every time I see that commercial, I go, they're probably showing that because Tampa Bay is not winning at the moment.
Oh yeah,
they've got to get the cannons off somehow. Anyway, so if no one's figured out, we're talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They have the number 1 pick this year. They picked Mike Evans last year, right? With their first round pick.
Yes, they did. With their first round pick, they picked Mike Evans.
So they
Which
picked Mike.
at the time, I was kind of upset about it because I was like, all right, we drafted the wide receiver, and that's great because it filled a need that we had a need at wide receiver, but we don't have anybody to throw him the ball,
Yeah.
which is the real problem.
So NFL.com is the source. I'm looking at the top 5 teams. Now, it has all 28 teams, but I'm looking at the top 5, and only 2 of them need a quarterback. And that, of course, is Tampa Bay and then the team with the number 2 pick with the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah.
So I want to come down a bit because Tampa Bay, the three needs that NFL.com is claiming that Tampa Bay has are offensive line, a solid pass rusher, and, of course, a quarterback. A quarterback being 3rd on the list. It's saying you guys still have Josh McCown and Mike Glennon on your roster. You, as a fan who's watched a multitude of these games, is quarterback higher on your list? Right now, quarterback is 3rd, what NFL.com is projecting. Is that higher than 3rd on your list?
Yeah, I think that's number 1 priority because, 1, Josh McCown is nothing better than a backup quarterback. That's what he is. He flourished in Chicago because nobody had game tape on him. Then people studied him, and guess what? He's not that great of a quarterback. And then he can't say he didn't have people to throw it to. He had Vincent Jackson. He had Mike Evans. He had Lewis Murphy for part of the season. We had a couple young guys deeper in the receiving core of the. At tight end, he had Austin Severian-Jenkins, another great rookie. People who started to come on, and he just did not make good decisions. I watched a couple games, and it's just like, you got to let go of the ball. You have to throw it. You can't just, this isn't like his situation in Chicago was better. He had Brandon Marshall, he had Martellus Bennett, he had Alshon Jeffrey, people who are way better than what we have. So I give him that much, that he had a better wide receiving core. But he's just not. His decision making was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Now Mike Glennon, on the other hand, I think he's very raw. He just needs the experience. Last year, I was not a huge fan of Greg Schiano. His offensive plan sucked. Honestly, it wasn't. You didn't know what his offensive plan was. That was the thing. Like, you just never know. What are you trying to accomplish? Are you a running team who's going to pass the ball sometimes? Are you a passing team that's going to run the ball sometimes? Are you what kind of offense are you running? So, which is why he only lasted a couple. And Lovie Smith, obviously defensive minded, and part of the issue this year was the offensive coordinator got sick at the beginning of the season, so we had to install a whole new offense.
Yeah,
sure, that had to play a huge part in it, but I think quarterback is something that they need to look at. I think what they do, if I'm putting myself in the GM or coaching shoes, I'm not any expert. I'm just an ordinary guy who follows the team. I do draft a quarterback. I would be content with Jameis Winston or Marcus Mariota. I have my reservations about both of them, but both of them, I think, potentially could be, a starting quarterback on our team. I think you draft either one of them, you put them behind. That's the thing. I don't want to say we're going to draft this person and they're going to be our starter week 1.
Of course.
I know that's the way it should be. Most people say if you're drafting somebody that high, they should be your starter. But honestly, I don't know if Jameis Winston. I don't know. My reservations with him. It's not. He has all the intangibles of an NFL quarterback. Has all on the field talent. My problem is off the field. With in the past couple of years, you have people like Manti Te'o with his fake girlfriend and other people like that, like all these off the field issues. Where you gotta, I don't know if you're gonna come into a locker room and they're just gonna accept you. Yeah, you were really good at Florida State, but the last time we saw you, you were falling backwards, fumbling the ball in a national semifinal.
Of course.
So how does that work for you? That's the last known tape that people. He's a known winner. So I'll take that any day of the week. Marcus Mariota, again, he's the perfect kind of poster child, golden boy off the field. But my thing is, does he have the intangibles on the field? Mm-hmm. You're great. I think he's more a product of that Oregon system. He can run that Oregon offense with his eyes shut. Now, give him a playbook and say, hey, learn these plays. And can he be a pocket passer? Can he be accurate? Can he have the arm strength? Because he's not throwing against, some 6'2" freshman, true freshman quarterback out there. These are people like Richard Sherman we're going to see next year. You're going to go down to Atlanta twice, New Orleans twice, Carolina twice. Those defenses are no joke in the NFC South. Like as bad as the division was this year, like those are teams that at any point, Atlanta 2 years ago went 14-2. Same with the Saints; they were 13-3. Carolina the year before was, they started off really hot. So at any point, any of those teams can be good. So I think quarterback needs to be high on the priority list. You draft a quarterback, you put him on the bench. I'd rather run with Mike Glennon right now. Mike Glennon showed the greatest promise last year. Why they didn't play him towards the end of the season, I guess you're trying to show trust in Josh McCown, and that's fine. Stick to your quarterback. But I think Mike Glennon was the better quarterback. He won us our only game. Yeah, we won against the Redskins, but I'm not anybody won against the Redskins last year. They were
they were abysmally
something.
bad.
They were something. They're just with all their office problems, and it just spilled over. That's a team that doesn't support whatever's going on in the front office. They don't support the coaching staff. They don't support each other, so they're not going to win. You're not going to have a winning team if you don't support UT. At least with the other losing teams. Yeah, Oakland Raiders were losing, but they supported their coach. Yeah, the Buccaneers were losing, but they supported Lovie Smith and they believed in his systems. I think that goes a far way. But you have Mike Glennon, who has some experience. He's not the best quarterback, but he can get the job done. We didn't beat, we beat the Steelers. It wasn't like a shitty team that we beat the Steelers. So I think that,
So if you had to keep an eye on a team going into this draft this year, who would be that team?
If I had to keep an eye on a team for the draft, I would say the St. Louis Rams. I'm really interested to see what they do. They have Sam Bradford at quarterback, but he's obviously can't stay healthy. If you put Sam Bradford on that team this year, and that defense, the way they play, you're talking about, I think they pose for a wild card position. Maybe, I don't like messing with the structure. And a lot of people are upset that, how can you let a team who's 7-8 in the playoffs? They won the division. As shitty as the division was, they won the division.
Yeah.
If you win the division, you have a chance to play for something, I think. But if you put the Rams in there, I don't know that they get to the playoffs, but boy, they're going to make it difficult for somebody late down the stretch. It's tough for somebody to get in the NFC there. But I'm interested to see what they do. Do they go try to get a quarterback? How do they build their team? Because they have a great nucleus of defensive players.
Of course.
They have a nice little offense going there. They're just adding pieces. And Jeff Fisher, one of my favorite coaches of all time, sucks that he doesn't have a Super Bowl. He was 1 yard short. Fucking Kevin Dyson can make his way to the end zone there. But I'm really, that team can be serious. That's my sleeper team for this year. That is a team that if they draft well, they make a little splash here and there in free agency. You're talking they could be, I don't think they're taking the division from Seattle, but they're definitely a wild card team. That's a team you don't want to see come wild card weekend.
Yeah, I think the team in my opinion, that's the team to watch for is I would keep an eye on Oakland. So Oakland went 3-13 this year. They had one of the toughest schedules this year as well. Derek Carr looked really good in some of the games that they played. He looked fairly consistent. Do I feel like they're a team?
Real quick, we have one viewer. I want to shout out that viewer. I don't know who you are, but what's up?
Hey guys, thank you. Sweet. So Derek Carr had a really good year. They only won 3 games. They went 3-13, but they have one of the toughest schedules in the NFL. So fairly good team. Do I feel like Oakland is right around the corner? Not necessarily, but I'm of the belief that the draft is what, for some teams, the idea of what it could be. So Oakland has had some horrendous draft picks. We don't know. We don't need to look very far. Exactly. We don't need to look very far for Jamarcus Russell and Darius Hayward-Bay as some really poor draft decisions. But you look at this right now. So you have Tony Sperano, you have Derek Carr as your quarterback. This is an opportunity for them to get that young guy who, in tandem with Derek Carr, can kind of bring something to that team. We don't know what it is exactly, but they can bring something to the table. Oakland was not great. I mean, they have not put themselves in a position to have a lot of success. They spent a lot of money on older players. They traded away a lot of draft picks for those players. So roster-wise, it's not strong. However, I feel like this draft is a potential for the Raiders to say to themselves, this is our fresh start. This is our chance to kind of retool and go from there, because this is a perfect opportunity for them to take advantage of the division they're in. So you have Denver, who is above and beyond the best team in that division. However, they have their holes, their weaknesses. You have San Diego, who really has not been able to get away from a 500 record, and you have Kansas City, who had the one really good year and a one really poor year with Alex Smith and with Andy Reid. So we don't really know the second half of that division, the bottom three teams. It's really up for grabs. It's really kind of that Russian roulette of teams kind of rotating with success. So I think Oakland really has the potential to make a very quick turnaround and make some solid decisions. Will they make those decisions? History says no. But I think
Oakland has definitely proven itself as a place to die. They send people there to die.
When they call it the black hole, that is a very obvious statement.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I feel like there's something there. It's that team where you can't quite put your finger on it because there's something there. But if the reason I bring up Oakland is, again, look at that division. Look at Denver's long-term solution. We don't know what we were talking about it last night. They hired Jack Del Rio as their head coach. What is that long-term solution? What is that look like 3 years down the road? To me, hiring Jack Del Rio means I really don't want to change anything about the team. John Fox said, hey, guess what? I'm bouncing. I'm out. So I don't want to change anything because I'm going to have Peyton Manning for another year. So I'm just going to keep Jack Del Rio rather than go out and get somebody with a new system and a new idea. So there's no long-term solution in Denver. So now is the time. If Oakland wants to kind of make that quick turnaround, now is the time to do it. Now's the time to make those quality draft picks, get those quality players, and go, hey, guess what? This is the position we're in.
So let me ask you this. Do you think, if Oakland is your team to watch, do they have a good core? I think David Carr, he is definitely their quarterback of the future.
Sure.
And I'd say within the next 3 to 5 years, he's going to be, one of those top tier quarterbacks, top 10 at least. Do you, as putting yourself in the GM shoes there, as the Oakland Raiders, do you draft a wide receiver to give him some targets, or do you find somebody who's equally as promising to build your defense around?
So this is the tough part, because if I'm taking from what I've viewed, what I've seen, is the idea that defense can get you somewhere in the long term. And a wide receiver, I mean, Odell Beckham Jr. was not to my knowledge, I don't believe he was one of the top draft picks. So to have a wide receiver kind of change the perspective of your team doesn't happen very often. And there's a guy in Louisville, Devontae Parker, who's good, but I don't know if he's going to change my team good. So I would probably, if I'm sitting in the shoes, I would probably go pass rusher. I would probably go defense, With my second pick, I might go receiver, and then I'd focus a little more on defense the rest of the way. And I would build around that. I think you might not outscore a team like Denver, but remember, my point was that Oakland needs to be honest about where they're sitting. I don't think they're going to win the division next year, not as long as Peyton Manning is the quarterback in the Denver Broncos, one of the best regular season quarterbacks of all time. So I don't think Oakland's going to win the division next year. So Oakland needs to have a marathon mindset and go, I'm going to get guys who by their second, by their third year are some of the best players in the NFL, some of the best defensive players, so that when you finally go to Denver and you go into next year's draft and you might get a solid wide receiver like Amari Cooper, the guy out of Alabama. So now you're sitting in a position where you can go, hey, now I can focus on offense because my defense in a year or two is going to be solid. So Oakland is playing that long game a little bit. They're the team I'm watching for because they have the most potential upside out of everything else that is out there. I think as far as the team that could make moves, I think you got to look at a team like Philadelphia. You know, the news broke out that Philly is in talks with St. Louis, the team that you were talking about sending Nick Foles to St. Louis so they don't have to worry about the quarterback position. And, of course, Philadelphia would be sitting at number 10 in a prime position to get a quarterback. But I'm of the belief system, we talked about this last night, a Russian roulette-style quarterback system doesn't get you very far. If you can't land on a quarterback, it's not going to matter. It's not. So, in my opinion, Philadelphia needs to commit to Nick Foles and actually commit to Nick Foles, rather than committing to Nick Foles and then going, wow, Marcus Mariota went to Oregon and Chip Kelly coached him in Oregon. That would be phenomenal. Because it's like, wow, this is exactly like college football. How would this not be successful? You know? So they're a team to keep an eye on. As far as moves go, because I think they would be ballsy enough to do that. But I think Oakland has the potential to make a really quick turnaround. They have the most upside of some of the teams that are in that top 10 as far just based on where the division is. I mean, you talked about it with the NFC South with the fact that a 7-9 team could make the playoffs. And even if that isn't the case, you know, are the New Orleans Saints really going to have a bad year twice? You know, that's another thing to take into consideration. Are they really going to have two bad years? Is Carolina really going to have two good years? Probably not.
Yeah.
Just because that's just the way they are. Hey, guess what? We're going to be good for 1 year. And then
who do you think, going into that, who do you think next year is that team that makes that jump? A lot of bad teams this year. A lot of bad teams. I would say there were, not even bad, but there were a lot of teams that underperformed. Who do you think is that one team that underperformed that next year, you know, they potentially could be in the Super Bowl?
That could potentially be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Because you have, in my opinion, I look at it this way. If you look at last year's Eagles, like I think I mentioned earlier, I'm a very avid fantasy football player. This year, one of my leagues, I chose LaShawn McCoy first overall. I had him. No, I did choose first overall. I had him fourth pick. He fell to me. Rushing title, had him. I picked him, and that turned out to be the worst pick in the world. He blew the whole season. He gave me about 2 games where he had more than 10 points of production. However, next year, if I were to do the draft again for next year, and I'm at that number 4 spot, I would strongly consider taking him again.
Sure.
Because I think he's going to have a bounce back year. And that's how the Eagles were last year. Last year, the Eagles were a team that people were scared to play. And I think that they could be that potentially again. And they just got to, you know, I think injuries hit them hard. You know, Nick Foles, no one expected Nick Foles to go down. He wasn't playing amazing, but I think it would have helped them more than it hurt them. Because, I mean, you go to Mark Sanchez, and people thought that was a great idea. That, to this day, baffles me. But, you know, what's a team like that where, you know, potentially, you know, maybe they are 1 or 2 pieces away that maybe they didn't have such a great season this year because of injuries, and then maybe they add a rookie or two, pick up somebody in free agency, and now all of a sudden they're, you're looking at them like, wow, they could, be there next year.
Yeah. I think the reason I would be hesitant for a team like Philadelphia is I feel like Philadelphia has a lot of – so Philadelphia is running this offensive scheme that they believe is game-changing in a sense. And I live in the Philadelphia region, so I get to listen to everything on a regular basis. I get to watch the games on a regular basis.
Yeah.
The issue that Philadelphia has is a deeper problem. So Philadelphia, and we mentioned this last night when we were talking, Philadelphia has never truly admitted to going through a rebuilding phase. So Philadelphia is the equivalent of putting bandages on a dead body. They are not a bad team. They're far from a bad team. However, a lot of the decisions that they've made have been patchwork decisions. Have been, hey, look, we need a wide receiver. We're not going to have we're going to let go of Deshaun Jackson for whatever reason. We're going to let go of Deshaun Jackson, and we're going to bring in Jordan Matthews, which actually worked out really well. Nice possession guy. But we're going to have Riley Cooper as our number 2. I'm sorry, Riley Cooper is nobody's number 2 whatsoever. Just in any team, he's not a number 2 receiver.
Right. Tight
end wise, they're relatively good. Defensively, their secondary was abysmally bad. Abysmally bad. I mean, there are video highlights of defensive backs running into each other. Like it's really bad. It's just they had back-to-back games this year where they had like double-digit sacks and then fell off the face of the planet the rest of the season. Now they had injury problems, which they didn't have the first year. They were surprisingly healthy in the first year under Chip Kelly. But I think a lot of what they've done has been, one, like I mentioned, has been a lot of patchwork. Rather than improving at a position with talent, they've just kind of improved it with a body. Say, hey, look, we need a quarterback, so let's go ahead and let's toss Kerry Williams in there because Kerry Williams is amazing when he's not. He's just a body to play at the cornerback position, and that's pretty much the end of it. Now, they have talent. Don't get me wrong. Michael Kendricks is probably one of the best, 3-down linebackers in the NFL. He is. But when you break down that team, there isn't that long-term talent. There's the short-term, hey, guess what? We kind of have a solution, but it really isn't there, number one. And then number two, as long as they keep rotating quarterbacks, they're not winning anything. I'm a firm believer when I look at all of the teams that have won Super Bowls, when you have a quarterback and you stick with the quarterback, you tend to have success. You tend to see that success flourish. It's why a guy like Ben Roethlisberger is still in Pittsburgh. Now, Ben Roethlisberger is talented, but it's why he's still there. Because Pittsburgh really had no interest in getting another quarterback just to see what would happen. Hey, we have Mark Sanchez, and Nick Foles is not having the 27 touchdown, 2 interception year he had last year. Let's see what life is like with Mark Sanchez. And it doesn't happen that way. Now, Nick Foles was injured, mind you, but at the same time, you still can't have that mindset. And I believe that's the mindset they have. Is when I hear, whether it's through the radio, whether it's through whatever, I hear a team that still is not solid on who is leading their franchise. And when you don't have that, guess what? You're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
You're not doing it. But if there's a team that has a potential to turn it around in this draft, I'm looking at teams here that their needs are strictly on one side of the football.
So you're looking at, I was going to say, I wouldn't look any further than in my own division. The Atlanta Falcons, oh my goodness. I think they are a couple moves away from putting themselves in the Super Bowl. Easy. You get rid of their old running back, Steven Jackson. He's washed up. Let him go. They have Devonta Freeman, who is a playmaker back there. I'm not saying he's an every down back. Maybe he's a very change pace back. They had
Sure.
I forget his. They had another running back. I'm blanking on his name right now. But every time he touched the ball in the first 6 weeks, he broke off like a 40-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
Like, why are we not playing? Why are you guys not playing? And then I think they need to shore up the defensive side of the ball, go draft some people, find somebody in free agency. And oh my goodness, that is a team you don't want to see. Because Matt Ryan is they need to shore up their offensive line. That was their issue this year, is their offensive line was god awful. Like, you could have, drove a car through their offensive line.
Yeah, for me, it's interesting because I don't know if I don't have to look very far. I don't have to look at a team who might have been eliminated previously, or looking for that big turnaround. If I'm looking at a team who has the potential of getting into the Super Bowl, and again, bar me for saying this, I might be looking at a team like Pittsburgh. Now, Pittsburgh was already in the playoffs. It's not like an Atlanta Falcons team who's just kind of, trying to make that turnaround. But you look at a team like Pittsburgh, all of their needs are defensive.
Yeah.
Offensively, they were pretty good this year. All of their needs are defensive. Every single one of them. If you look at the breakdown of what they need, their top 3 needs are every single stitch of it is defensive. I mean, safety, defensive line, quarterback, or cornerback, linebacker, everything defensively is what they need. It's only one side of the football, and I feel like they have a team that they can make. It's not the same turnaround, but they can make a jump. If I'm looking at a team that's making a turnaround, depending on who stays on this New England team, I might be looking at a team like the Miami Dolphins.
Oh my goodness! Yes.
That run, 8-8, pretty much 500. They had an okay strength of schedule. But all they really need is an improvement in the secondary, which they have a pretty good secondary anyway.
Yeah.
But a linebacking core and some protection. I mean, they run a pretty unorthodox offense, and I don't know if I trust Ryan Tannehill, but I trust him enough that in one season to make a turnaround from 8-8 to potential deep in the playoffs, that might be a team I would look at.
Oh, yeah. And they've had New England's number. They've had New England's number the past couple of years.
Yeah, they have. Cool. Gotten that all the sport out of the way. We got the Super Bowl. We got the draft. You sick of the NFL yet?
I'm sick of the NFL. I can't wait for next season. I've already just, I hope this, with the one viewer out there, I don't know who it is, but I hope this blows up. I'm like I said, avid fantasy football. I cannot wait for fantasy football next year. We'll be running a couple leagues, trying to start, trying to start a legacy league.
Nice.
And, get a couple people, just continue it going over a couple seasons. But it's sad to see it go, but I'm ready for, I think overall the NFL has had a really terrible year in terms of PR, and it took away from I think the game, some of the rules they've implemented has just made it terrible. It's like you can't really blame, there have been times where people are like, oh, the officiating is terrible. But you know what? I kind of I can see what the issue is. It's not necessarily the officiating. It's what are they officiating? They don't know what to call. Sometimes, they're bang plays, but sometimes a guy, I saw multiple people get laid out this year. Like, there was that hit on Emmanuel Sanders that almost everybody probably has seen.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a legal hit. He went, he slid down, tried to catch the ball. The guy dropped his shoulder, and he got lit up. Guess what? Don't do that. You won't get lit up. But now in the league, that's a fine. So what do you, and then you see other people, when people, get hit, and it's like, is that not, you're waiting for the flag, like, oh, there's a flag, and there's no flag. And it's like, all right, so what are the standards of this? What are you officiating? They've had a lot of bad things like that, rule changes that are terrible. The Des Bryant thing, as shitty as that was. I'm not a Cowboys fan. I don't support the Cowboys, but it was a hell of a catch. You got to reward somebody for going up and making a play like that. But the rule sucks. The rule is it hit the ground. It's incomplete. That's what it is. You know,
That's what it is.
potentially, you know, maybe it's Dallas, Seattle in the NFC Championship, and things are different. Who knows? You know, you never know, but that's what the rule is. Unfortunately, they don't get in. And, you know, then just the whole PR thing, you know, you have Ray Rice and that whole situation, and you have Adrian Peterson and that whole situation, which both of them, you know, I understand the whole domestic violence thing, you know, but the way I look at it, too, you got to think, you know, what did she do to provoke him? No, they were both drinking, but you don't just haul off and hit somebody like that. She was probably, you know, couldn't take it. You know, he punched her in the face. And I'm not saying anybody didn't go in the face. That's not what I'm saying at all. But, you know, you look at both sides of the story. How that goes down.
It's safe to say that the NFL needs an offseason.
Yeah.
Really badly. Really badly. Let's shift gears because I want to get your take on something. Let's take a complete 180. What are you playing right now?
Playing video game wise, I am sucked into Destiny. It's been I was telling you a little bit before we went into this.
Sure.
When Destiny first got announced, I was not excited. I was like, okay, it's another game. I was more excited for the next gen of things. Next gen. You can't see it on my camera. I'm not going to move it, but I have a PS4. I have an Xbox. I have an N64 hooked up. My Dreamcast hooked up. I am a gamer at heart. I spend loads and loads of money on video games, unfortunately. But GameFly has been the best thing, by the way. I got a GameFly. It allows me to go play all these older games. I just got Metal Gear Solid that I haven't even touched yet. I had it for a while and I took it back, but now I have it for PS4. I'm going to definitely try to go through that. I'm going back into like my old days where I used to do achievement hunting and try to get all achievements, and so I'm going to try to platinum things on PS4. We'll see how far I get with that. Right now, I have Destiny both on Xbox and PS4. Xbox, Bikini Bikini.
Understand that.
Bikini Bikini 25 on Xbox, Mr. Fantastic 25 on PS4. Come find me. We're trying, you know,
I've never understood the idea of taking a game that requires so much time and effort and playing it on two systems.
And more recently, I've been dominating it with the Xbox. I have a level 30 Hunter on Xbox, and I just recently went back to my Warlock going PS4 and it's a level 25, trying to get that up so I can do raids there and get my gear.
Sure.
But I went back to how this game, when it first got announced, I was like, oh, okay, I don't really know what it's about, because their whole marketing strategy was just like, all right, here's this game. It's going to be epic. And all you know is it's Bungie. The last thing I knew of Bungie was Halo. And Halo was, if you're a gamer, if you're a gamer, Halo is like the holy grail for Xbox. So you're like, okay, this is going to be good. And then they showed the preview at E3, I believe, was 2 years ago. And I watched the gameplay, and I was like, this is going to be awesome. Until after the event, and a guy, I think it was on IGN, can't remember, said it, and it's a mix of Borderlands and something else. And it totally turned me off to the game. I was like, you know what? It is. And I don't want to play Borderlands over. I love Borderlands. But why do I want to play it again?
Why would I want to play Borderlands?
Right. Which I'm extremely excited that it's coming out for next gen. That's probably the next game I'm going to buy. Yeah. But then, you know, I was really off to Destiny. I'm like, all right, I'm not really getting it. Then they announced the white PS4 console with it. And I was like, God damn it. I've always wanted a PS4. I was like, this white one looks really nice. Yeah. I was like, plus for it, I get the game. I could try it out. Worst case scenario, I don't like it, but at least I have it, because I wanted a PS4 so I get the exclusives. So I got a PS4, I was playing. I played with you for a bit. I played with one of my other buddies who also got the PS4, and it just wasn't doing it for me. So I kind of like put it down, and you know, I was, you know, FIFA. I'm a very big sports gamer, so NBA, FIFA, Madden. I was, you know, putting in my time on those things, and then I don't know what it was. I guess one of our other friends. He had it on Xbox. He said, dude, just get it on Xbox so we can play. I have a lot of friends who I, you know, play with on Xbox. And I just like once I started learning the in and outs of the game, it becomes like addicting. It's like, oh man, you have to get on like every day to do these bounties, to build your character up, to get all this stuff to the point, that it was and every night last week I found myself on playing for 3-4 hours, getting these challenges done. And it's the same thing over and over, and I don't like. At the core of it, you're like, man, I'm playing the same exact stuff over and over that I've been playing for the past 4 months, but somehow it's good. It keeps you.
So that is the exact path I took in the complete opposite direction. Complete opposite direction. So I have not touched Destiny in probably a month and some change. I have not had a thought about playing it. So I ended up level 30, Hunter. Day it came out, picked it up, was excited, literally bought my PS4 for the idea that I'm going to be playing this and I'll have a next-gen system. Plowed through it with a buddy of mine, just killed the story. Then I'm playing with a couple people from work and I'm just getting through it. So then they released the expansion pack, and I'm like, okay, let's see what's going on in the expansion pack. It's like 4 story missions. It's like a bunch of other. It's like a whole new bounty system, and a bunch of other pieces of armor and all this stuff. And eventually, now again, you're talking to a guy who is primarily a PC gamer who then has consoles. I prefer playing on console, but I've been playing PC games for a long time. So I distinctly remember the moment of going, I don't have time for this anymore. I'm smack in the middle of fighting Fogoth for probably the 15th time, maybe 16 times. And I immediately, in the middle of the fight, went, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. And that was it. I haven't touched it for about a month and a half. Now, I'm playing... I can't really say that it's different. It's obviously a different genre. It's on a different system, but the same concept applies as far as repetition goes. I'm playing Super Smash Brothers.
Oh.
And now, mind you, I'm playing it with the distinct intent of ruining friendships and destroying lives, which Destiny does not do at all. And there's one disappointing thing about Destiny.
You would be surprised. You would be surprised.
So I'm playing Super Smash right now, and I'm playing a couple other games on PC. I'm playing some Divinity Original Sin, and then I'm also plowing through Assassin's Creed right now. But yeah, it's been an interesting. So a couple months ago was the 1-year anniversary, obviously, of next gen starting.
Yep.
And you and I are the late Nintendo generation, the late Sega generation. So we got to experience the good and the bad of the systems that people have a tendency to forget. So we got to experience the good and the bad of the Sega Dreamcast. We got to experience the good and the bad of the GameCube.
Or the bad of the Sega Saturn.
Exactly, the bad of the Sega Saturn. So we got a chance to experience those, and I want to get your take because you mentioned it just now. Borderlands is releasing the HD, whatever you want to call it, the remastered edition of Borderlands 2, which they've put on now what I believe to be their 5th different platform that they've put it on, because whatever. And they're also packaging together the pre-sequel, and both will have all of the DLC content in its entirety. So they're releasing this. I want to get your take because you and I have now kind of dove head first. You a little more than me because I haven't picked up an Xbox One yet. We've dove head first into this next-gen experience, but it's really been flooded with a lot of current-gen remasters. Have you felt like this has truly been a next-gen experience, or are we still kind of waiting for that?
We're waiting, and waiting hardcore. I think I'm trying to think, the first game, like, I got, just as background, I got Xbox One day one. Like, when I saw it and they announced it, I looked at my fiance at the time. We were laying there, and I said, I'm getting that day one. And from that day I saw it at E3, I started saving money. And I had made my pre-order that night, and I knew come November I was going to have it. My PS4 I bought a year later, obviously, for Destiny. Because, I mean, at the time, the first year, there was nothing that was earth-shattering about either of them. Infamous was out for PS4, which I did play and I enjoyed. That's one of those games I got to get back with GameFly. I had jumped into GameFly too quick, and I got 2 games at a time. Realized that's no way to play 2 games at a time. So dialed it back to 1 game so I can concentrate on 1 game at a time and do what I need to do.
Sure.
But Infamous will be on my list. But there's not many distinguishing factors now. As we're in the time of trying to see what's going to happen, because Xbox has a bunch of exclusives that seem to be coming up down the pipe. You have the Tomb Raider that seems to be a timed exclusive. Halo 5 that's supposed to be coming this year. These are big name games. Sunset Overdrive, which most underrated game there is out there. I kid you not, I said this is going to be a stupid ass game when I saw it. And I was like, I couldn't believe they had it free for 1 weekend. And I said, you know what, let me try it. I'm not going to, let me try it. And then if it sucks, it sucks. At least I had it for free. I didn't pay $60 for it. And I played it, and it's literally the most fun I've ever had. The concept is so simple, but it's the most fun I've ever had playing a game. And immediately I was like, Christmas list, put this on my Christmas list. And when I opened it on Christmas, I haven't played I played a bunch of it. I love that game. It's great. And that's what I look for an exclusive. A game that is going to, to me right now, Sunset Overdrive, Xbox has those games that are stamping of approval of my purchase. Right now, I sat here the other day when I moved into my apartment, I'm setting up all my game stuff, and I'm looking at the games I have for PS4, and all of the games I have for PS4, I literally could have bought, except with the exception of Last of Us, could have been purchased from Xbox One. And the only reason I did it is because I primarily want my PS4 to be I want to hammer out my campaigns. I don't want a whole bunch of people, bothering me on my PS4 to play stuff. So, but I feel like we're still waiting. There hasn't been that one game that's like, this is next gen. And at first I thought Destiny was that game. And then I thought about it, and I was like, well, but it's not, because it came out for 360. It came out for PS3. So it's still kind of in that current gen genre, just kind of looks better. You still get the same experience regardless of what you're playing it on. But there hasn't been that one game and I think what that potentially could be is Halo 5.
Sure.
Halo 5 might solidify, okay, now we're in that next gen of gaming. I hope the order for PS4 is like that. I'm not going to be picking that up day one, but that seems like it has potential to be that game. But then there have been other games like Drive Club that I don't know what they were thinking when they released that. Now I just looked up on the internet the other day to see if they're still offering it free for PS Plus, because I refuse to pay for the game. I refuse to.
Well, the PS Plus version is a glorified demo, so we carry, it's like 10 tracks and like a couple cars, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I think if you break down what this becomes, I mean, PS4 has its own exclusive titles that are coming out. Obviously, Uncharted. You're going to have The Order. You're going to have Bloodborne, which is made by the makers of From Software and Namco Bandai. So it's like a spiritual successor to Dark Souls and Demon Souls and things like that. So there are games that are coming out but again, Uncharted might feel like a next-gen experience, but it's an extension of a trilogy that was really mastered on the current gen. So it's not like a brand new IP in a sense.
Yeah.
Bloodborne is going to feel a lot like Dark Souls and Demon Souls. So the same concept it's going to apply. It might look better. The Order 1866 is a new IP from Ready at Dawn and Sony Santa Monica, but it has that Gears of War feel. So it's something that we've seen before. It's something that when you look at it, you can compare it to something. Yeah. I think when next gen was announced, when it was, hey, we're going next gen, I wanted to see something that was I had never played before. And for a while, through video, and you and I talked about this before we went on the air, for a while it was Evolve. Evolve was that thing that I had never played before. 5-player, competitive, 4-player co-op, and the guy I'm playing against is this giant monster that can level up and do massive amounts of damage, and we have to work together to this one thing. It's like taking boss fights, making them competitive, and adding a multitude of interactive experiences within this boss fight.
Yeah.
And levels and layers. So that at first, that was that next-gen experience. And then you mentioned it when people got their hands on the beta for the first time. It's now in beta again. But when they got their hands on the beta for the first time, it was boring. Like, there just wasn't, it didn't have that life. Now, I'm hoping it's different. But I agree, we're still waiting for that next-gen experience. You know, now the hot button topic is No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky is now the hot button topic for the next gen experience. Hey, my game is going to automatically render hundreds of thousands of planets that I can fly in and out of the atmosphere with no loading.
Yeah.
You know, that's the new thing. We don't know why we're doing it or what the purpose is as to why we're doing it. Some people feel that they're okay with that, which that's kind of a really important part. But that's the next hot button thing. We're still waiting on that next gen experience that, in my opinion, changes the way that I game, changes the way I look at the game. For you know, we talked about Destiny. Destiny was the way that it changes the way that I look at games. As a PC gamer, it really doesn't, because a lot of the core aspects of what you do is no different than an MMO. You're just choosing the perspective you wish to play behind.
Yeah, so Destiny's just like a console-based MMO. Most people like to categorize it that way, but that's you have to call Apple an Apple, yeah, and it's a MMO.
And so we're still waiting. You know, Dying Light came out yesterday, and it's a zombie experience in the first person, and it's co-op. Problem is, we had Dead Island. We had that. So we're waiting on that IP, that new experience that it doesn't have to be game-changing, but it has to at least change the way that I look at games. You know, Call of Duty at least had the fortitude to go, hey, look, we know that we've done the same thing over and over again. Now we're going to add something that you've never seen in our game before. You know? And I think that's the thing, is that's what made Call of Duty, at least for me, a little bit more likable, is because they went, hey, look, you've never played Call of Duty multiplayer from a vertical aspect of things, to have to jump high and be able to access different areas and use the exosuit mechanic as a way to navigate rather than just this booster or this power-up.
And it changes the way you play the game. Like I bought Call of Duty for years now. And this is the first year, like, people didn't like Ghost wasn't the best game, but it was good for what it was. And I think the problem was people didn't want to relearn something. It was a different type of game. You had to relearn it. And once you relearned it, it became like every other Call of Duty game. Just like this one, I've noticed a lot. I haven't touched Call of Duty in a while. That's because Destiny's kind of sucked me in. But a lot of people, I don't find a lot of people playing it. You find yourself taking a while to find, like, you know, you don't find the amounts of people because people aren't open to this new idea of a new content of game. Like, nobody wants, like, the run and gun style is over. Nobody wants to, you know, we've done that for 5 years now. Let's find something different. You know, same people are good at the game every single year because they don't have to relearn anything. It's just a matter of, okay, let's see what gun is OP in this game, and then that's what we're going to use. Now you change the whole aspect of it. It takes, you know, an aspect of it and it makes it relevant. But I think going back to when it will truly be next gen, I don't even know if I think if we hold our breath for those games that are going to be game changing, we're going to be holding our breath for a really long time.
Yeah.
I think you truly hit that next gen experience when we get those blockbuster titles. I think it starts this year with the Halo 5s, and I wouldn't even consider the order a blockbuster. But you're looking at, I'm talking about games people have been like that they've teased us now with that, it's like, okay, we haven't heard anything. Like they just announced the Elder Scrolls Online. That game's been in development for God knows how long.
Yeah.
And I remember pre-ordering that and then going to there and I go like, yeah, what's up with the Elder Scrolls Online? Yeah, they're still making it. Well, do you have any idea when it's coming out? No. Like, okay, and now they saying they're going to create it, but I don't know what to expect because that was supposed to be a Xbox 360 game. So is this a Xbox 360 game that just now looks better?
See, that's a console struggle. That's a console struggle. PC gamers have been playing the Elder Scrolls Online for about a year now, and they're like, we've pretty much had enough of it. It's
right.
You guys are more than welcome to have some fun with it. But no, I agree with you from the standpoint that it's those blockbuster titles. I mean, one of the biggest games that's going to come out this year is going to be Arkham Knight.
Oh my!
It's going to be one of the biggest games, hands down. It's just in how long we've been waiting, and this kind of comes into I have a combo question because I want to get into Arkham Knight before we wrap up. So Evolve, Arkham Knight, Dying Light, those games decided to push back their release date. They decided to say, okay, we're going to take another 6 months and we're going to work on it. Now, Arkham Knight, we had seen nothing about it. We saw a CG trailer, and that was it before they decided to push it back another 6 months. So this goes hand in hand with one of the games that I'm playing right now, which is Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed has decided to release itself on a yearly basis. And Unity was released to extremely harsh criticism about the release. As extreme as the idea that they essentially charged $59.99 for an unfinished product.
Right.
So $59.99, you bought the game. There have been 4 patches since the game's release in October. Or November, November 11th. 4 patches. 4 updates between November
and January. That game was delayed as well. It was delayed 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Originally, it was supposed to come out end of October, got delayed back to November, which I thought was a really bad idea in the first place. But
yeah. I mean, that I don't know why they would have delayed it back, because 2 weeks, that's like an ESRB rating thing.
Well,
not really.
Just not even that, but you got to look at it in the realms of what was being released at that time. They released the same day as Master Chief Collection. Now, prior to all the issues Master Chief Collection had, that it was a nostalgia thing. There was no way if I had $60 to spend and I was spending it on Assassin's Creed,
you're gonna drop it on the same
or Master Chief, I'm getting Master Chief every time.
Yeah. So it becomes a question because Ubisoft has switched responsibility for who's going to be helming Assassin's Creed. Since Assassin's Creed 1, it's been Ubisoft Montreal. They've done every single one, which means they've had good ones like Assassin's Creed 2 and essentially the entire Ezio trilogy, and they've had good ones, which in my opinion I thought Black Flag was really good, and then they've had bad ones like Assassin's Creed 3 and Unity and things like that. So they're switching over to Quebec. So Quebec, the location that's over in Canada, they did the Freedom Cry DLC for Assassin's Creed 4, which was pretty good for DLC content. You know, It wasn't going to blow me away, but it was pretty good. The reason I bring it up is from a company standpoint as a consumer. There comes a moment. I'm a little more antsy, and so I want to get your take on this because I don't like getting unfinished product. I really don't. But I love getting a game every year. Especially a game like Assassin's Creed because it's not like a sports title where I'm essentially paying $60 for maybe a twinge in gameplay and a roster update.
Yeah.
It's pretty much what I'm spending $60 on. With Assassin's Creed, it's a campaign, it's an environment, it looks like a brand new game on the surface. And so getting it yearly, you kind of go, oh man, I really don't have to wait that long for the sequel or whatever comes out next. However, now we're starting to get unfinished product. What are your standards for companies when releasing those popular titles? Are you okay with them taking a while, or do you have a limitation as to how long you want them to take for those titles?
In my opinion, it needs to be take the time you need to make a great game. If I'm going to be spending $60 on, like, I will be more. I won't be upset if Arkham Knight comes out and it's Game of the Year, like right off the bat. We play it and people are like, Game of the Year, Game of the Year. No one's going to remember that it got pushed back 6 months. Nobody's going to. And to be honest with you, when they set that release date, everybody knew it wasn't coming out that date. There was no possible way in the trailer that they released, that it was coming out in 6 months. Everybody knew that. So when it got pushed back, it was to nobody's surprise. The fact that they pushed it back twice, then it's like, okay, are we, what's really going on?
Yeah.
You pushed it back once, and now you're saying you're pushing back again. Okay. But if it comes out and it's Game of the Year or Game of the Year potential, nobody's going to have a problem with it. Nobody's going to care.
Sure.
The problem comes in when you push it back. All right, we're going to push it back, 6, 7 months, and then you get a game that's unfinished. Mm-hmm. Or you could clearly see the holes in it. It's like, well, what did you do over those 6 to 7 months that made this game better? Did you do anything? Did you spend it on one specific aspect? And I think that's where the companies have to kind of man up or own up to their mistakes. If I think with Assassin's Creed, they knew that game wasn't ready. They absolutely knew that game wasn't ready. And 2 weeks wasn't going to help it anyway.
Yep.
So they try to they released it in hopes that, okay, well, maybe we'll release it and people won't get that angry at it because, there were other things coming out at that time. And then they get all this extreme backlash. They're like, oh, well, we'll just throw patches your way. Let's throw a patch here. Let's throw a patch there. And some of the things that were happening in that game were hilarious. People were spawning with, like, no faces and other garbage like that. Like, and that's stuff that, I think that's alpha testing stuff.
Yeah, but I think one of my favorite things about Assassin's Creed when it first came out is so it's surrounded by this parkour style. So I can run up walls, I can do all this stuff, and I'm running through the streets. With the naked eye, you can see the game rendering in front of you. So you can see NPC characters walking around, and all of a sudden a hat will pop up on one of them, or next thing you know, they'll be holding a flag all of a sudden that came out of nowhere. So the game is rendering in front of you. One of my biggest complaints for Unity was the fact that so one of the biggest promotions around Unity was the fact that they were like 6 different branches of Ubisoft are helping build this franchise.
Yeah.
Helping build Assassin's Creed Unity as if it's a promo piece. So then you get the game and you go, yeah, 6 different parts of your franchise built this game, but it feels like none of them decided to talk to each other. So one portion of Ubisoft was like, dude, we just figured out how to put 5,000 NPCs on the same screen. And Montreal was like, really, we only built the game for you to be able to put 2,500, but let's do it anyway. Half of the NPCs are unrendered, and you have pop-in for their clothes and what they're doing and all this other stuff. And it's, oh, so you want to be able to parkour on pretty much every angle in the building. Oh, that's fantastic that you were able to figure that out, but we still have the same layout from Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
Right.
So your main character has animations that look like they're advanced, but he's parkouring in a very current gen way. So it feels like there was no communication, that they spread this game way too thin, and then when everyone decided to show and tell, let's see what you brought to the table, it's, and SportsCenter would laugh at this. It's like having your students come in with 5 different instruments, all off key. Every single one of them are off key, and they're like, "Oh, that's good, isn't it?" No, actually, it's not good. It's terrible. It's
not even close.
None of you did your homework at all whatsoever.
I think.
So go ahead.
I was going to say the overarching issue is this. Like you said, we grew up in a time where, late Nintendo, late Sega Genesis. But I remember going back, I was going through some games the other day. Like, what happened to demos?
Legitimate.
I remember the Dreamcast used to give you a CD with 6 legitimate game demos on it. you could play a full game of NBA 2K on there. Granted, if it was even 2 teams, you could play, you could play up to the first 2 hours of any game on there, and they were legitimate demos, and then it got you excited to play the game. Even up to the 360 generation, you had demos on there. That's how I found out about most of these games.
Yeah.
That was the way I found out. Am I going to ask my parents to actually give me $60 for this, or is this something I can wait till I can buy it used for $20?
Exactly.
And that's what demos help me weed out. Now nobody's doing demos because everybody wants to make a quick dollar, and I understand it. Their business says they have to make money, but I think now they're just kind of banking on. I didn't buy. I usually buy Assassin's Creed's game every year. I did not buy it this year. I did not buy it this year because it was like, it's just of the multitude of games that were coming out. I wish I didn't buy Master Chief day one. I just wish I didn't still own it right now.
I feel like when you look at last gen and you look at this next gen that we're in, I had less regrets when I bought a game in current gen.
Oh yeah.
Because I was able to demo it. I was able to read up on it. I was able to do those things. I feel like now they show you the trailer, they show you the promo, they'll show you some gameplay footage, and that's really it. It's, hey, look, you're either going to want this game or you're not going to want this game. But rather than letting me make that decision, you're feeding me what I want to see.
Yeah.
So Evolve is the prime example. One of the phrases you used when we were talking about it is they were claiming Evolve was from the masterminds of Left 4 Dead. The problem is Evolve is nothing like Left 4 Dead.
They should have left that game for dead is what they should have done.
The concept is there, but it just is not interesting. It's not, I don't care. However, if I want to play it, to see if I want it, I have no choice but to buy it.
Yeah.
No choice. So obviously there are routes like GameFly and things like that.
Yeah.
But the options have become so limited that I've had to say I'm not going to get this game and take away that experience. One of the prime examples was Splinter Cell Blacklist when that came out on the 360. So I had Conviction, and I loved Conviction, every second of it. So Michael Ironside wasn't going to be voicing the character anymore of Sam Fisher, and they were like, here's Blacklist, and it does this, and it does this. And I was like, wow, okay, like it's a little different. I don't know if I'm going to be too much into that, but I mean, I'd like to test it out and see. I had no choice. I was either going to buy it or I wasn't going to buy it. So I didn't buy it, and I didn't get the opportunity of experiencing Blacklist until years later and going, it's okay. But that's the thing that option's been taken away from me. 9 times out of 10, the demos I play are sports demos. Hey, guess what? I want to see what's new on FIFA 15. And that's essentially not the case anymore. So, yeah. So I'm glad we were able to talk about that. Yeah. So, what are you looking forward to? Let's end on this note. What are you looking forward to? Let's do sport. Obviously, Super Bowl is a big thing, but let's do sport. Let's do game. What are you looking forward to?
So after the Super Bowl, definitely going to be hopping into the Barclays Premier League, watching up the end of that here as it rolls into the summer, as it starts to get nice outside. Definitely wake up on my Saturday morning, sip my tea and crumpets, and watch some good old football on the pitch.
Oh, yes.
There. But, yeah, definitely getting into that. I'm a very, very huge college basketball NBA fan. Got my league pass. I'm definitely following the Wizards. Think they have a great chance to take the East, regardless of the Atlanta Hawks. Just trying to hate on them right now because they're just killing everybody.
They're pretty good.
Yeah, I'm baffled. I watched their games. I'm like, how are they beating people? Like Kyle Korver and Jeff Teague and Al. What? Who they have nobody, but they are demolishing teams. But
yeah.
So I'll definitely be heavy into basketball. Game wise, like I said, I think the next game I pick up is going to be Borderlands. That Borderlands collection. Mortal Kombat in April is set out some time for that. then really after that, I don't know what I'm gonna like. I'm gonna have to wait till E3 and see if anything happens. There's nothing. I mean, the next big thing on my radar is Halo 5. Really, I don't. Other than my yearly sports games, or actually no, I lied. This year, since this is my first year owning a PS4, I will be picking up MLB The Show. That is a game I've wanted to play since 2-3 years ago, and I never had an opportunity because I never had a PlayStation. Now this year I have a PlayStation. Definitely going to get MLB The Show.
Do yourself a favor. Don't play MLB The Show when you're tired. It's just do yourself that favor. So I was one of the rare. I mean, I think you were kind of on the same page. I was one of the rare MLB 2K fans.
Oh my God! What a great series!
2K.
I can't believe it.
I loved MLB 2K, and now it's non-existent. So I have no choice but to play the show. And the show is, playability-wise, it's pretty good, but it's probably one of the it's gone from one of the most interesting forms of presentation to one of the most boring forms of presentation. It's pretty bland. So just keep that in mind. As far as what I'm excited about, you hit the nail on the head. I'm a huge soccer guy, so the Premier League, I'm definitely going to be following. Spurs started out the year with a win over Chelsea, and they've kind of fallen back a bit. They just lost to Leicester City. So but I'm going to be following that, pretty much ending the transfer window, which I think ends in a couple days.
Yeah, I think it ends the 31st.
Yeah, 31st, and then as far as other sport-wise, more soccer. I know MLS. They just did the Super Draft, so I'm definitely going to be looking towards that.
Oh, the two new New York FC,
New York franchise. I'm pretty excited about in Toronto. And then baseball season is right around the corner. We gotta get some Nationals tickets.
Yeah, or
Nationals
games. I've been into the Orioles. They haven't done anything. I think they've gotten worse in the offseason. I haven't seen they've let some key players walk away, not really add anything. So
we could watch Manny Machado throw a bat at people if you really want to break it down.
Tears ACL when it matters, and then play in the playoffs. And,
As far as playing goes, games. I would agree. Most likely the next game I'll get is going to be the Borderlands collection. As far as anything outside of that, I mean, even PC-wise, I'm trying to think of games that I would actually commit to playing. The only thing I missed was Civ 5, or not Civ 5, but Civilization Beyond Earth, which I didn't get because I heard really average things, but it might go down in price, so I might get it then. And then there are a couple indie games that are on PS4 and Xbox One to keep an eye on. I know Transistor has been pretty good on the PS4. I might pick that up. But yeah, the next big one is going to be Borderlands, and I think I agree with you completely. It's going to be Mortal Kombat. But I'm enjoying the Wii U at the moment, so I'm enjoying making Smash on Smash.
Smash it up.
Oh, so good.
I consider getting a 3DS just for that.
I do yourself a favor. Get the Wii U. You'll save yourself the carpal tunnel, because Smash on the 3DS has got to be. It's fun, but it's got to be the worst idea you could possibly have. It's like it's punishing yourself is what you're doing. You know what? I don't need my hands to do anything, so I'm just gonna play Smash and destroy whatever I have left of my fingers. But no, get yourself a Wii U. It's fun. We talked about it earlier. The Wii U, when people come over, it's the system I turn on. My Xbox and my PS4, I don't turn on. So
right.
But yeah, so I think that's it. That's it.
The first
I think we covered everything. First
episode 0. Is the
episode 00000. One we will do next week.
Yeah.
Not bad. Not bad. I think it went pretty well. So thank you to the one viewer, whoever the one viewer is. It's probably it's probably Jesse in the living room.
Probably.
Let's be completely honest. She's probably sitting downstairs on an iPad. It's on mute in the corner. She's not really paying attention to anything.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely check us out on Twitter. Again, I'm at Kiwi Bikini. Diamond Jab for Joe.
Yeah, of course.
Check all of our social media. We'll definitely, hopefully, get this off and running, and then hopefully can be interactive. People can chat.
Yeah.
Respond to you guys.
Yeah, man.
We're gonna try
use
to get this up on iTunes, right?
Yeah. It's going to be up on iTunes later this week. Use the hashtag GSM. I know I'm going to be talking a lot on social media, Twitter and Facebook and things like that. Use the hashtag GSM if you want to join the conversation. So we're going to have that up and running this week as well. I don't know. Thank you, man. This is exciting.
Yeah.
Are we going to have do you think we're going to have a guest next week?
I don't know. I can reach out to some people, see if they'll be willing to do it. I have one friend who might be able to.
Nice.
Don't have to necessarily be a sports fan. We can talk about anything. If you want to be a part of it, let me know. And we'll work something out.
Yeah, we'll join the conversation. Keenan, as always, it's been amazing.
Yeah, man.
So, ladies, gentlemen, gentleladies, thank you for joining us for the first podcast of Game Set Match, and we'll see you next week.
Yep. See you next week, guys.